Welcome to this videocast on October 7th. My name is Matilda Fasting and today I'm joined by Yoni Diller, who is a speaker and a Nova Festival survivor. Today it is 1 year since the October 7th attack by Hamas. My guest Yoni, he was at the festival. He eyewitnessed when the rockets came in from Gaza, and he also managed to film some videos during this attack in the early morning hours on October 7th. These you will see when you hear and listen to Yoni in this videocast. Welcome, Yoni.
Thank you for having me.
You attended the Nova Festival. What happened on October 7th?
So, whoever doesn't know, the Nova Festival, it's a festival that happened on October 7th. Very, very big festival, around 3,000 people. It was a peace festival that was attacked by a Hamas terrorist. There was basically a big massacre. In a big magnitude, many people got murdered on the spot, and many people just were also kidnapped. And it was a very terrifying situation. I found myself in this event because I initially came there to film. I also like to film like as a hobby, especially with my drone. I came here to film. I like these festivals because what's really unique about it, it's like a peace, liberal kind of festival. So the vibe is very like everyone just wants there to meet each other, see each other, and listen to like electronic music. And the culture is really, really special. People with huge hearts that just want to have fun, a good time, and really just spread love. So we're going to this festival around 3 a.m. from my city in Israel, and I went with a good friend of mine named Nadav. We arrived around 4:30, and we joined a group of friends. We were around 20 of us. We were in tents. Like in a camp with tents and lights, and it was just like a beautiful atmosphere. So the whole festival was like in the middle of a forest, okay, and a forest in the middle of a desert, not too far from Gaza.
And you didn't think about Gaza as a neighboring place or anything? It was nothing that was special?
It wasn't scary to be next to Gaza. I mean, it was kind of a unique, odd location to do a festival, I must be honest, but it's not the first time they do festivals around the area, just because it's like not a mainstream kind of genre. So they do these festivals outside the big cities, Let's say they would do these kind of festivals like 4 hours away from Oslo, because also they're not going to approve that because big space, loud music, so they do it over there. We arrived, we joined a group of friends. So between 4:30 when we arrived to around 6, we just pre-game, we talk, we introduce each other. Crazy atmosphere, beautiful lights, beautiful people. And we're going to the dance floor at 6 o'clock, getting ready for the sunrise. Usually the sunrise, these kind of moments, it's like the peak, it's the highlight. It's where the music gets louder and it gets better. And people, just come and want to really enjoy the time. So we went there to the dance floor. I told my friend, Yalla, let's go. We start dancing. 6 a.m. We're there in the dance floor. And after 30 minutes, 29 minutes, we felt there's something weird in the atmosphere, like something's about to happen. We weren't sure what, but it's just like a gut feeling, when you feel something's about to happen. I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure any one of us can really relate to that kind of feeling. This was like really, really strong stomach feeling. I look right, I look left, and I see missiles coming from Gaza. One after another. As the sun came up, also the missiles came together with it, So it was kind of two situations. You see sun in the east, and on the west, where Gaza is from us, like dozens of missiles that became hundreds of missiles. So like the first minute or two, music kept playing. There's still music. People kept dancing and they were still like in shock. Like imagine these kind of festivals. A lot of people, they like to be drunk. They like to take psychedelics. They like to take drugs, whatever. To enjoy their time and play with their conscience. So a lot of them were not really aware of the situation.
And did you know that those missiles were missiles, or did you think of it as not as fireworks or anything like that?
This is not this. If I remember correctly, that was not Independence Day. I'm sure it was missiles. I saw correctly, and quite honestly, it wasn't really surprising because Israel's been having these missiles coming from Hamas, from Gaza for years. It's like their way to provoke us, every time. Hamas, Jihad, the terrorist group, they send it every once in a while. But this was kind of like a big mass of missiles, one after another. At some point, everyone ran to their tents. The police took the microphone, told everyone, guys, take cover. There's no place to hide here because of an open space in the middle of a desert, of a forest. So better just go to your car and leave as fast as possible. We go to the tent, we help our friends pack up all the lights, all the chairs, all the tents, and we start going to the parking lot. And we put all stuff inside really, really fast, and we get out. While we're in the parking lot, and I have also a video of it, and I don't mind sending it to you as well, you can see the vibe of the people, like when they go outside the party, kind of like in shock, like don't understand like what's happening. Like there's missiles, we're just dancing and like in a peace festival, now there's missiles coming from Gaza, like what the hell is happening? Some people were panicking, some people were not panicking, some people were just taking their time, some people like ran for their lives. No one understood really the situation, what is really happening. Again, this is before we knew there was a terrorist invasion, 1 hour after that. So, by the way, if you know, there was one girl and her boyfriend parking right in front of us. And when I did a video in the parking lot, because I felt like I have nothing to lose, I'll do a video. This might be my last day, my last minutes of my life. One of my loved ones would see this video, he knows at least I was fine. So I did a video, and you can see in the video in the background, you see a girl and her boyfriend. When I look back at the video, you can see that girl was Noah Gamani. Noah Gamani was one of the kidnapped women to Gaza. She's been there for many, many days. And so I see the video only after. An hour later, Noah was kidnapped together with her boyfriend. She got rescued not too long ago. Her boyfriend is still kidnapped. Hopefully he's still alive. So we're in the parking lot. We're going out. A lot of people are in traffic. Again, so many people trying to get out, going back home. Suddenly, at some point, when we meet the main road, we see a group of people yelling at us to do U-turn. Really afraid, really stressed. Do U-turn right now. Guys, do U-turn. Yeah, like running. Run, do U-turn. And we're like, and we're asking ourselves, why would this person tell us to do U-turn? I asked him, everything okay? Tell us. He was so scared. Like he wasn't even communicative. Okay, so we waited a few seconds. And later, after that, we see a car coming from the same direction, coming slowly towards us. Now, that was something very odd at the car because, you see a girl in the car, in the driver's seat. She's trying to stop the car, but she can't really stop the car. We don't understand why. So when we get closer to her, we help her open the door, and she's hurt. She's injured. She opened the door, she slides out, full of blood, bleeding on her left leg, injured, wounded. She got shot on her left knee, and we see her. Her name is Shani. We try to save her life. She's dying in front of our eyes. We block her wound. We find ways to block our wound with all the blood coming out. We give her water. We're a big group of people next to her. My friend was going to give her water. We had a bottle of water in the car. He ran to the car to come back and get it, to come back and give it to her. But by the time he came back, we heard gunfire. There was loud gunfire coming from another side, the northern side, which where Be'eri is. It's where everyone was going to. That's where we heard gunfire. It was automatic gunfire, AK-47. Now I know from my personal knowledge. Fine, I did the military because it's mandatory, and I was at a combat unit to protect my country. And I think one of the things it really gave me is understanding when it's enemy fire and when it's friendly fire. And AK-47 is a kind of a weapon that IDF does not use that weapon. It's a Russian weapon. It's a weapon used by Jihad, Hamas, terrorist groups, Al Qaeda, ISIS. They use AK-47s. So I had that feeling this is not IDF for sure.
So you knew.
If it's not IDF, it might be someone else, which surely doesn't want to be friends with us right now. So we just left our car there. The ambulance was on its way to pick up Shani as well because she was injured. And we go to the open fields where people were also running for their lives. We go to the open fields to just understand it for a minute. What is going on? Because you see an injured girl dying in front of you. You see and hear just artillery coming from the other side. And behind us, there's missiles coming from Gaza. So it's like the instinct said, just go that direction. We waited a bit, and then we see these people running in the open fields close to us. But behind them, behind these people, what are they running from? And I see behind them white trucks, Toyota trucks with machine guns on it, and people that are like, they look like civilians, armed civilians, on their machine guns and just shooting everyone with their machine guns on the trucks and shooting everyone like in duck range, and people just running for their lives. Now I saw that scene just for like 2-3 seconds. Okay, I didn't really have time to be too curious about that moment because it was very risky. So we found this valley. We got farther from the event, from the whole festival area. We found this valley, like a river with no water, with like full of bushes and trees. We hide underneath, and we take cover. We take cover. We run. We jump. We go inside, and slowly, we understand, like, what we're going through. And that's where we waited and waited. As time went by, the bullets became stronger and stronger. All the shooting. At some point, bullets were flying on top of my head, really close to my ears. My friend was calling his sister, telling her everything's going to be fine. I didn't want to tell anyone where I was because I didn't want anyone to panic. I called my brother. I told, look, don't tell mom. I'm in the south at the Nova party. Yes, whatever you hear on the news. I love you very much, but tell mom, everyone, whatever she asks, I'm not there. Okay, I'm in the north. I don't want her to panic. I closed the phone because I didn't have much battery and I wanted to save it for the rest of the day. And we continue to take cover. Now, while the bullets are on top of us and I see people around me, like I said before, people in these kind of festivals, they take drugs, they're not really in their conscience, you know, they're not really focused on like the situation. So I tell them to take cover and put their head down. And I yelled at them, guys, put your head down now. Some of them listened, but couldn't even act for their own reasons. But the one that did, I guess, kind of like it saved them, you know. So we had to act fast. We go farther away from all the shootings, and we crawl down like between all the bushes and the trees. What I do, one of the first things I do, I open my phone and my maps. I'm very lucky that I love maps, geography. I'm like a geography geek. You know, I like to know where I am, where is every place to know. And I just open maps and I was curious what's around me. And I see all these villages like Ofakim, Netivot, Sderot, you know, the villages around Gaza. But I had a feeling I want to go somewhere a bit farther, just to be sure. So I see this other village called Patish. It's a small village. And I did a distance, it was around more than 17 kilometers, quite far. I didn't think I would walk there, but I said, let's go that direction. So we see the open fields and we start walking in that direction. Before we start walking that direction to that village, and getting away from all the festival, all the danger zone, I look at Nadav. We're at this crazy moment together. They're shooting at us. We're underground. I look at him in the eyes and I say, Nadav, I am so sorry. I brought you to this festival with me. I'm asking for your forgiveness. And he looked at me in the eyes and said, Yoni, it's all good. I'll thank you when we get out alive. We hugged each other and we kept walking in the open fields together with another group of we're like a bit more than it's like a few dozens of us, including the security guards from the festival who had really no way to fight against Hamas, all Hamas terrorists, because they came with heavy weapons and they had this maybe pistol or two. It wasn't really helpful. We started walking this open field, and I'll share that picture and video as well with you after this. So you can decide how you want to mix it. We start walking and walking. In the background, we see black smoke, white smoke, tons of noise, artillery noise, and it looks like a world war in the background. Like, what is happening? We're asking ourselves, we keep asking ourselves, what is happening right now? We're walking and walking for hours.
Do you think this was in the middle of the day, or how many hours after some sunrise was this, you think?
So everything started at 6:29, 6:30. We were walking and walking. It was 7:30, then it was 8, then it was 9, then it was 10, it was 11. We walked for more than 4.5 hours. We walked for almost 5 hours with no food and no water in the middle of the desert, us and another group of people. In the background, we see all this chaos. And we keep wondering, where are our friends? Because we all split. We all went different places. I went with my friend Nadav, and each one went different places. Eventually, we arrived to this village called Patish. The civilians from the festival, the civilians from the village, they saw us walking, and they saved us. They said, "We're with you guys. We're with you." But even that moment was kind of scary because we were so scared, like maybe these people are terrorists and maybe they think we are terrorists. So wait, how do we recognize each other to make sure we're cool, we're on the same side? And so they recognize us, they see we're with them, we shouted and we're with you. They took us to their homes, to community center, and we arrived with really no scratch, a physical scratch. But 4 of my friends did make it. One of my friends got kidnapped. And a lot of the people didn't make it alive. Like more than 400 people got murdered in this festival, like in a duck range. And I must say that the moment it really hit me, like what really happened and I understood, is when we arrived to this village Patish, to this community center. And not only me that survived, there are other people that survived that came from different directions, and we all met there. And we start investigating each other and asking each other, what did you see? And what did you see? Each one kind of like collected all the puzzles together. So I see one guy telling me, asking like, can you tell me, like, what did you see? Because I saw something different. He said that he saw his friends being killed in front of his eyes, his friend being shot in his head by some Hamas terrorists in front of his eyes. And you see another girl saying that she saw her friend being raped in front of her eyes by two Hamas terrorists. And you see one person saying that she was hiding like in a bush. Now, through a bush, you could see what is happening, but she can't do anything because if she makes a sound, they're going to chop her head off. So she sees terrorists raping her friend in front of her eyes, and she can't do anything about it. And I think, it's sick, and I didn't want to believe this is what is happening. And I took myself and I was just like so frustrated because we were walking for our lives, all these hours, while all these things were happening in the background, like we didn't know. So we felt kind of the responsibility that we might have maybe done something, because we didn't know anything, we didn't know what is going on. We saw all these things on the way, but we didn't figure this is the situation. We arrived home around 5 p.m., 6 p.m. to see my parents. Tell my mother that I was in Nova, and she was quite mad. I will never forget that moment. My mom's Italian, so the way Italians show love to each other, we curse each other, She cursed me with a lot of love, and we had this biggest hug, biggest emotional moment, with my parents, with my family. Told her I was in Nova, but I'm fine, I'm here alive, and I'm happy to be here, and the most appreciative moment in my life.
Mm. But do you know at what time did you understand what was really going to be the October 7th attack? Did you understand when you were in this village that this was a coordinated attack from Hamas? Or didn't you know? When did you listen to the news? Did the group understand that this was a huge terrorist attack coming from Gaza?
I think when I finally understood, because until then I refused to understand this is a situation. So only after all this 5-hour walk, only when we arrive and we hear the news and we hear all the people, then we understood the magnitude of this massacre that has been happening.
So Of course, you said that the moment when you met your family again was huge, maybe the biggest moment in your life. But how did this disaster change your life afterwards? And what is your main message that you hope to get attention to internationally when you go? Well, you are now working professionally with telling people about this. And what do you say to them?
So yeah, say many things, but. Since after October 7th happened and everything, I also went to reserves a day later to serve in the army because it's like a mandatory thing. I felt this responsibility to do something. The commander told me after he heard I was at Nova, he didn't want to take any responsibility. So he made some excuse to tell me that he cannot accept me to go down to reserves, and he told me to rest and take my time, in other words. I got really frustrated and I just wanted to do something impactful, I wanted to be relevant. I always ask myself, how can I be relevant? And the last thing I wanted to do is rest. When you rest and you're after trauma, you have too much time for yourself. You don't need to have time. You need to be busy. But then your thoughts are going to control you. And I knew that, and at some point, the news channel in Israel, they wanted to interview me, and they heard that I speak English and Italian as my mother tongue languages. So they interviewed me the story, and in the beginning, I didn't really want to do it. I wanted a bit of like privacy because I wanted to process it by myself. But then I said I'll do it. I did it once, and it felt good because I'm basically sharing not only my story, I'm sharing the story of others that weren't able to share it because they're not here with us alive. And I kept doing another interview to another interview. Started with the Israeli channels, then I went to Italian channels like Rai Uno, Canale 5, and then American channels like Fox News, Sky News, MSNBC. And I start sharing the story and saying other stuff that not just like what happened October 7th, but just bridging it to something a bit more positive as well. How can we like maintain more resilience? How could we really combat this misinformation war? Because around the world, a few days later after October 7th, everyone, it's not surprising, but they were really hurrying up to blame Israel because Israel is the only country while they're being attacked, they're being attacked. The only country in the world. So a lot of people around the world, they were doing protests and hatred, saying October 7th never happened and it's all a lie. A lot of misinformation. So I was fighting against that. So I went to campuses around the world, in the US, to Harvard, Columbia, NYU, Yale, Princeton, and the East Coast and the West Coast as well, in California, in Florida. So I spoke in Congress as well to basically convey a few messages. And one of them was the misinformation battle, this misinformation battle that is not just, putting fake news out there that October 7th never happened, that Israel is committing genocide or apartheid. Not these things, because these are full of lies and people just spreading it to, advance their own agenda. But just to say what happened from my point of view, and misinformation is, like I said, it's not just fake news, it's hiding also certain news. So it's all like a political agenda. And we can get much deeper in that. It's a very, very diverse topic. But my job was first, sharing the story. Number 2, increasing resilience among Jewish communities that are afraid because they see all these violent protests that claim to advance peaceful movements, which they were not. They were just full of hatred and full of violence. So gaining more resilience for Jewish communities. Then I spoke about the whole misinformation battle. That all of us, whether you're Jewish or not Jewish, we're all ambassadors. And we can all be, peace activists. We can all be influencers. We can all use our phones to not only, I'm not saying let's make peace, but let's have a dialogue. Let's have a discussion. Let's ask questions. When I see people yelling on the streets, to the river, to the sea, when I go to these people, these people in the States and I ask them, I respect your ideas, whatever you want to promote, free Palestine, I get it, I respect that. But do you know which river and which sea you're talking about? A lot of these people didn't even know which river, which sea they're talking about. A lot of these people on the streets don't know why they're shouting all these things on the streets. Now, all these things on the streets, they don't represent all the opinion of all the people. It's just this minority, but the radical minority. okay, and they take all the crowd with them. And the people that are with them, they're sure they feel they're doing the right thing. It's like climate change, like Greta. They think they're doing the right thing. They think they're part of a bigger meaning, and it's not, because a lot of them, these people don't know what they're fighting for, and they don't want to have a conversation. If they would want to have a conversation and talk, that would be different. So we can't waste our time and energy with these radicals. We got to speak to people in the middle, and hopefully we can, create a better future. But that's what I'm trying to convey to people. Our time is precious. As someone who almost lost his life, and I think none of us should spend too much of our time confronting these people. First, it's not safe. Number two, save your time and energy. So number three, you're not going to convince these people. So you got to have a conversation with people in the middle. You want to talk about Hamas, what they did? You want to talk about genocide? You want to talk apartheid? Let's talk how it's not true. And I'll give you an example. There are more than 100 hostages, Israeli innocent hostages in Gaza held by Hamas. There are too many evidence, and it's a big fact that Hamas is a terrorist group. They're not a peaceful liberal group. Now, not too long ago, I think less than a week ago by now, a Bedouin Muslim Israeli citizen was rescued by IDF in Hamas captivity. He was rescued by IDF, Jewish soldiers that came to rescue him, and he was taken care of by Israeli Jewish doctors. This Bedouin Muslim person who was kidnapped, he claimed that he's Palestinian. He's Israeli Palestinian, and we helped him and we saved him. How can you call Israel an apartheid country? And that's what happened. We basically brought him back to his family, and we continue as a functioning nation, and people calling for saying apartheid and stuff. And when we brought in so much support for Gazans while this all war, because Hamas took all the food that was meant for the Gazans, and they were saying Gazans were, let's say, famished. They were hungry for food because they didn't have enough food. Israel has brought trucks, tons of food, and the press doesn't show that. I think here, or maybe other places, it shows what they want to show. A lot of food was brought into Gaza, and unfortunately, as Hamas always does, they take the food to themselves, to their soldiers, to their terrorist soldiers underneath their tunnels. They've been building tunnels for many years. Hamas has been taking power since 2005 and has been building tunnels that cost millions of dollars. These millions of dollars either go to these corrupt leaders of Hamas, or go to building all these tunnels, or buying more weapons to eradicate Israel and increase the terror. This money has been coming also from Norway and from Europe, European Union, from Iran. This money could have gone also to other places to improve the Gazans' society, socioeconomic situation, better their education. But no, Hamas took power, and they take all the money to terror. That is the reality.
What do you think is the reality of in Israel politically right now? We are almost a year since October 7th now, and what is your understanding of what is happening in Israel, and politically especially?
I'm not a really political expert, but
as a citizen,
look, it's tough. Like you're in terms of like Netanyahu, not Netanyahu, or like in terms of like what is
whatever is your understanding of the situation politically. It will of course include Netanyahu, and of course also the view. Is there in sight any hope for ceasefire in Gaza, and why do you think it has taken this long to stop this?
It's been taking this long because Hamas, they have a lot of demands. Hamas wants ceasefire because every day that there is this war going on between Hamas and Israel, Hamas is getting weaker and weaker, and their food supplies is decreasing. We want to get all our hostages back, and we would love to have a ceasefire, but the ceasefire is with two sides. So we're going to get out of Gaza once they give us back all the hostages. Then we can talk about ceasefire. Now, as long as Hamas, they keep shooting rockets at us, missiles, and they have our hostages, we cannot talk about ceasefire. As long as there's terrorism inside Gaza, we cannot talk about any ceasefire. We will all have to see that reality of a ceasefire with no weapons and everything. But again, this is not under our control. We just want to get our hostages back. It's very simple. The political situation in Israel is quite complicated, and I really, quite honestly, don't really understand about it too much.
What do you wish for then, if I could say? What do you wish for the future? If there is a ceasefire and you will see changes in your own country, and of course also that ceasefire has to include Palestinians. So what should they do and what should you do in order to, and what is your hope for the future?
I think once, and the education system, for example, in Gaza, they've been educating the kids since they're little to hate. Okay, the Hamas, they put their education system in their schools to hate. We have to take out all this terrorism and all this hatred education out. And it's going to take us time. Because the kids that they grew up to listen to these terrorists, and then they become like them. And that's not surprising why we have terrorist attacks later after that. There's a big job to do. Once we take out all the terror and everything, later we can discuss a bit more diplomatic relations, peace, because the terrorists are not interested to have a two-state solution. They're interested to delete Israel from the world and later continue their jihadist idea of ruling the world with radical Islam, the jihad, as you can see also in ISIS in Europe. It's part of the same idea, originated from the Muslim Brothers. And we all want peace at the end. Israelis, Palestinians as well. Trust me, Palestinians, if you ask them on the street, they're afraid to say they're against Hamas. But most of the Palestinians, a lot of them, hate Hamas because Hamas brought this on them. We didn't ask for October 7th to happen to us. We all just want to live our lives peacefully. From 2005 until now, Hamas has been building all these tunnels. And all these years, let's say for the last years, it's been pretty peaceful. And we knew there are tunnels. We knew there's terrorist groups in Gaza, and that we knew they're planning something. But just to keep like a quiet status, we didn't really do much to stop that before it happened on October 7th. Again, we didn't know October 7th was going to happen. They really surprised us and everything, with a lack of intelligence, lack of a lot of things. But in order for us not being attacked by, let's say, the UN or the international political parties, we didn't want to do anything, so we kept quiet. But we waited and waited, and then October 7th happened to us. It just shows us we cannot wait for terror to stop, because it's not going to stop. We got to cut that cancer as fast as possible. I wish for all of us to have, more of a peaceful, situation. We have a lot of work to do, and people are forgetting that there's a war in Gaza, but there's a war happening also in the north against Hezbollah. Yeah. And Hezbollah, of course, is another branch of Iran. It all comes out to Iran. Iran is the one funding all this, funding Gaza, funding Hezbollah, and that's the source. That's
so. If we take a look internationally, then you just mentioned a little while ago that you had this from the river to the sea. You had the demonstrations in almost all Western countries, capitals, cities, and then I would take that you will say that Hamas has won the propaganda war in a sense, and now with the situation, people are saying that Israel is isolated. Then you heard Kamala Harris in her TV interview saying that she will still support Israel from the US. So if you are, what is your understanding of the international picture here? You just said also that Iran is is giving money and support to Hezbollah that comes from another side of Israel, the north of Israel. Gaza is to the west and south, and you have the West Bank. So you are kind of surrounded by enemies. But then you have the accords, also the peace talks that Israel had before October 7th with the Saudis, for instance. So is there some changes internationally that you would like to see more of, and how do you see other countries are contributing here?
Wow,
it's a big question, but it's topic. Just yes.
Let me address first the. We are surrounded by not really friendly neighbors. You know, Israel is kind of like, I would say that Israel is just the first step away from the Islamic Republic, Iran, or from the, let's say, jihadist idea to control the rest of the world, like Europe and everyone else. So you see all these protests and everything in Europe. I would just have to say this thing that you see all these haters, you know, pro-Hamas people on the streets. It's not about, again, this is my opinion, you know, it's not about specifically the Palestinians, I think, a lot of it. It's about hating Israel. It's about hating Jews. You know, it's a masking thing, you know, because if it was so much about the Palestinians and they would feel sorry for them, I don't see these protests when 500,000 Syrians were bombed by Assad, by chemical weapons back then. I don't see anyone protesting for Afghanistan or for people in Africa starving. Only when it comes to Israel, I see people protesting. So it just shows us a lot that
anti-Semitism,
anti-Zionism. What is the difference? You know, it's kind of like a new generation of anti-Semitism, and people are a bit sick to hear anti-Semitism, so they just put it on anti-Zionism. You know, so it's kind of more or less the same thing. You know, depends who you ask. So I would want to see people like discussing the real topics. You know, so people protesting on the street, and let's say Europeans protesting with them. Again, a lot of them don't know what they're protesting exactly for, but they don't understand that they are the target after Israel. They're done with Israel. Okay, so Israel is, you know, just one step away from, like, they're stopping basically the jihadists to continue to the rest of the world. Once they're done with Israel, they're going to the rest of the world. That's what ISIS is trying to do. It's a big radical Islamic, idea. It's a very, very complicated topic. What I'm trying to say is that it's not just about Palestinians. It's about hating Jews, about hating Israel, and bringing all this radicalism around the world. People yelling Intifada. You see people not just burning Israeli flags on the street. You see people burning American flags and European flags on the street. In the Holocaust, they said where they burn books, it's where they're going to burn people at the end. And that's what happened. 6 million Jews was burned alive. They were burned. They were dead. And that's what's happening. That's what's going to happen in the future. We don't stop all these protests. We have allies like the Emirates. Not many allies, among all the other Arab nations we're surrounded with. But I wish our relationship with Saudi Arabia would normalize. It would get better because we have a mutual enemy. That's Iran. And Iranians are causing a lot of trouble. They're using all their proxies like Yemen, like Syria, like Iraq, like Lebanon, Hamas. They're using them to hurt Israel, They're the octopus, basically. They're the head of the snake. And their strategy is basically, not doing anything physically from their country. And just using their proxies, so they take the risk and you just pay them the money and they do all the dirty job for them. And they just want to tire us. That's their main point. Tire us psychologically, mentally, physically. And luckily for us, we're a strong nation. And no matter what's going to happen, we're going to deal with everything like we did until now. All the miraculous wars that we had in Israel, the 67 war, the 6-Day War in 67, the Kippur War in 73, where they did surprise us. We won in all aspects every time. God is with us. We're a strong people. We're resilient. And we're going to win this again. Okay, it's not a problem, but there's a much bigger problem, which is taking care of Iran, long term. They're going to get a nuclear weapon sooner or later, And imagine a country like Iran who supports terror, and it's a There's too many facts about that. They support terror. They give money to Hezbollah, and they do trafficking, and they do. It's dangerous. Who will know what will happen once they have they will have nuclear weapons? They're supported by Russia. Russia wants to take over Ukraine. I mean, it's a whole geopolitical kind of like thing, and not talking about China. There's a whole other topic. We have to be strong inside, and we have to have the American support. Hopefully, Kamala Harris, whoever is going to be the president, I just wish them to support Israel, because Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East. Is the only country that can actually back off all this radicalism, terrorism in the Middle East, and it's creating a lot of peace in the Middle East. Israel is creating peace in the Middle East. It's creating kind of like a stability. And once Israel is not there, we're not going to get to that situation. It's going to be a big mess. That's why Americans have really one of their interests, that they want Israel to be there, and that's why they've been really great allies of us. Hopefully Saudi Arabia is going to be together with Israel in the future to fight against Iran. And that's how we're going to create more of a solid, more stable Middle East once we have all these relationships with one another. Because we're not going to have a relationship with Hezbollah, not Iran, but we can have relationships with other strong allies like Saudi Arabia and other countries.
Final question then, before you have to run for other interviews. You are here in Norway, and I'm not sure if you are familiar with the Norwegian situation towards the Middle East and Israel especially. But do you have any comments at all and why did you come here?
Yeah, I just came here to tell my story on what happened October 7th. To whoever wants to hear. Because I've heard there's a lot of, like I said, misinformation is not just about fake news. It's about hiding a lot of news, hiding the facts. And for what I know in Norway and Scandinavia in general, they don't show the whole picture of what is really happening. A lot of people are misinformed. So I'm just here to really state what happened from my side, and hopefully all of us can actually doubt what we see, because there's a lot of content outside. The World Economic Forum had this report in 2024, and I also showed this in my presentations, that misinformation is number 2 threat after climate change, and it's going to pass that with AI, of course. And all our kids, the next generation, they're just misinformed with TikTok, and that's where they get the news from. It's not about the normal news that we used to consume. It's a different generation. It's a Gen Z, and we have to be careful from that, because misinformation is so dangerous with bots and everything. And people in Norway are fed by this one-sided reality that they see, that is comfortable for the news, because it's a lot of drama. The more drama for the news, the more people are in their screens, the more money they make. It's a whole it's a whole money system factory. So hopefully, I would expect, smart people in Norway, because I heard people here are pretty smart, pretty high-level people, and good life here. And I wish I could, Israel could learn a lot from Norway in terms of socioeconomic stuff and everything. And Israel is good in high tech and other stuff, but the stuff in Norway, like green energy, I really respect that. But the conflict is so complicated, and we just have to focus on consuming the news and understanding 2 sides of the story. Not only consuming one part, but learning from both sides. And hopefully with that way, we can have a really respectful discussion if we want to have a discussion. And we don't have to judge immediately. We could just, look things at a bigger picture and not judge immediately. That's what I'm only asking. And come talk to people that live in Israel, and you will know maybe better. Come visit Israel. Come visit in Tel Aviv. Come visit in Ramallah, in the West Bank. I would love people to invite them for hummus. I will sit with them, and yeah, Israel is a pretty peaceful place, and they will see it for themselves once they visit, and not see it through the screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, you too, for coming here and sharing your story about the Nova Festival and the atrocities of October 7th. We are almost a year since that happened, and it's still not any solutions in near sight, either for the hostages or nor the ceasefire. But thanks so much for joining me today, Yoni.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to Liberal Halvtime. You can rate us and recommend us and give us feedback using matilda@civita.no or my colleague Eirik at civita.no. Thanks for listening and welcome back.